I'm Heidi Bragg, and this is Life, Cancer, Etc. My goal with this podcast is to connect you with stories and resources that help you feel happier, more resilient, and less stressed, especially when you're going through hard times. Okay, I'm excited today to talk to Ash Sivananthan. Long story. We tried to do this before and it just totally did not work. And I'm sure it was user error on my part because, let's face it, it probably was. Anyway, she graciously agreed to talk with me again. And Ash has a really interesting story. For me, it was interesting because she's the youngest person I know of, like of anybody I know, who was diagnosed with breast cancer. And we got introduced because her Aunt Raji is in the same essential oils group that I'm in. And she said, we had heard something about, I forgot what happened exactly, but she said, oh, I know. And then that's how we got to be friends on Facebook. She saw that I was doing a podcast and said, you really need to talk to my niece because she has a great story. So, Ash, thanks for doing this again.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so first of all, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and then tell your story of your diagnosis and stuff?
Okay, so I'm 32. I was born and raised in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, and I moved to Australia when I was 19 and to go to university, and 12 years later, I am still here. I'm a special needs teacher. When I came to Australia, I did an undergrad in communications and PR and journalism. I then worked briefly for a while with a daycare center because I couldn't find a job. And then I got a job with an events management company that did events for the research institutes around Australia in every state. And basically what they did was that they organized fundraising events for the cancer research department. And then I went back to uni, did a postgrad in teaching, and ended up becoming a special needs teacher about 6 years ago. In 2019, when I was 30, I was having a shower and I felt a lump on my left breast. And yeah, that was the start of the
craziness.
Yeah.
You got to tell the story though about the wedding. So last time you got to tell about the wedding and your like workout regimen and everything and the timing of this when you found it.
Yes. Okay. So 10 weeks, exactly 10 weeks before I was diagnosed, my really good friend she was getting married. And it was literally, I've been waiting for a while for this to happen, right? So I thought I need to look hot. So I went on this.
As one does.
Yes, exactly. And I went on this insane, like I wasn't doing carbs. I was working out every single day. And I went like a bit crazy. So my explanation in my head, the reasoning behind me feeling the lump is that I lost like the fat that I had. And so I felt my lump because it would have already been there, but all this while it was hiding behind this layer of fat because I ate so much.
Please.
So I was working out for 10 weeks, like absolute crazy mental madness. People at work were like, oh my God, you're shrinking. And I was like, yeah, trying to, be amazing for Jade's wedding. And then I felt the lump. I rewind a little bit, my paternal side, my cousin who was living here in Perth for a while was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. And so I was around while she was having active treatment. And I felt like that gave me a head start to sort of know what to do.
Mhm. Kind of wrap your head around it.
Yeah. This cousin of mine who was diagnosed, she's a pediatric surgeon. So she was the first one I called when I felt the lump. I was like, I feel a lump. What am I supposed to do? So she kind of asked me, like, where exactly is it, and what else? Yeah, we talked about where it was, and she was like, "Oh, it doesn't sound like, that's not a normal place for a lump. It might just be a benign thing." But she was like, "You need to go and do this, this, this." So I booked an ultrasound, but obviously in Australia you need to, and it might be the same in the States as well, I'm not 100% sure. You have to get a referral from the GP to get an ultrasound.
With
So
lots of insurance, that's the case, yeah.
So I made the appointment first, and then I went and saw my GP at 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. And she was, and I spoke to her, and she said, "Yep, go ahead. This is your referral." And she said, "I'll refer you for the ultrasound first. If they feel like they need to do a biopsy, if the radiologist feels she needs to do a biopsy and a mammogram, they'll contact me and we can fax over a follow-up referral." So I got that done. I went private to do it, and I was very lucky. When I got there, they were like, "Yeah, we would like to do a biopsy and a mammogram." And I got a session for like an hour or so later.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, so I got to do everything in one day, which was overwhelming because
Yeah.
I was on my own. I didn't go with anyone, and I didn't know what was happening as well. And I remember crying as soon as they said they wanted to do a biopsy. I was like, holy sheesh, this is getting real.
Yeah.
It might be what they think it is.
Because it's funny because you're like freaking out, but also your brain hasn't caught up yet. And those two things
Yeah,
kind of exist in the same space.
yeah, exactly. So I called my cousin, spoke to her, called my sister, I was in tears, and everyone's trying to calm me down. My really good friend, who at that point was also my deputy principal at work, she left work, drove straight to the hospital, joined me. Yeah, and we just sat there and we were processing everything, and she's going, "No, it's going to be benign. It's going to be benign. Like, it's going to be fine." And that when I was having that scan, like, I didn't want her to come initially, because when I told her that I was going for a scan, she was like, "Oh, do you want me to take the day off and come with you?" And I was like, no, I'll be fine. And the reason I did that also is because she had lost her mom, like,
Oh, geez.
about 3 weeks before that, to breast cancer. And so I didn't want, I felt like it was
Because if it's benign, right, you don't want to freak her out.
yeah, exactly. So I didn't want her to freak out. So I was like, no. And then when I called and I didn't even say anything, I just cried. And she was like, "Yeah, I'm coming. I'll be there in half an hour." So we sat there and we processed, and then she dropped me home after, and she was like, "It's going to be benign. We're going to think positive." And so the next morning, my mom, the next morning that was a Wednesday that I went through all the tests. I was due to receive my results on Friday. The next morning, my mom flew in on Thursday morning at 6 o'clock. And then the Friday morning, my dad, my sister, my brother-in-law, and my cousin flew in. And they've all come in not knowing what the results were going to be.
Right.
And I remember my cousin saying, oh, you know what? It's probably nothing. I'm just going to treat it like a 5-day break because I need a break from work anyway. Um, and so, but I'm so glad they were all around, because when I got, like, you know, when we went to the doctors and she said, like, yes, it is stage 2 invasive ductal carcinoma, which actually, I don't know if I told you the story of getting my diagnosis.
I don't think you did last time.
Okay, so there was a bit of a mix up. My mom is the sweetest person in the world and is very religious. So we went to the temple in the morning, and when I got out of the temple, I thought, oh, I need to call and see if they've got my results. So I called the doctor's clinic, the GP's clinic, and the nurse practitioner answered. And I spoke to her, and she just went, oh, yeah, everything's fine. You don't need to come in if you don't want to. And I was like, well, what do you mean everything?
What?
There's a lump there. And she's like, no, all your results are good. And I specifically told her that I did an ultrasound, a biopsy, and a mammogram. Now, what happened is that we figured it out. She had only seen the results of my ultrasound.
Oh, geez.
And she went, yep, everything's fine. And she told me I didn't need to come in. And I was like, well, no, they did a biopsy. Even if it's benign, I need to know what I'm going to do with this.
Right.
I'm going to come in anyway. And she went, oh, yeah, it's up to you. You can come in if you want to, but you don't have to. So I ended up going in. I sat down, and my GP looks at me and goes, Ash, I don't have anything for you. There's no results. I've got nothing to tell you just yet. And I was like, no, what do you mean? The lady said everything's fine. And then she looked back in my file and she's like, I've only got the ultrasound results here. It's not going to show me anything from the ultrasound, because all it says is, yes, there's something there, but it doesn't give me what it is.
Right.
And so then she made a few calls to the radio
lab or whatever. Yeah.
pathology, everything. And it turned out that at radiology, they had misspelled my surname.
Oh, geez.
So when the results came in, they hadn't put my biopsy and mammogram results in my folder because it didn't match my surname.
Gotcha.
What happened is that I think there was like a mix-up, or they left out one alphabet or something like that, which now when I look back, I'm like, totally an acceptable mistake, because I have a very long surname, but also something that shouldn't have happened, because,
Right.
you know, if it was a normal thing, like, you know, if you were just getting, I don't know, I can't even say if you were just getting blood work back, because something might have come up there, but if it was a different circumstance that I wasn't checking for cancer,
Right. Then it's like, well, there was a mistake.
yeah,
No big
there
deal.
was a mistake. But because it was this, so I sat there and the doctor was apologizing profusely. And when she was like, Ash, I'm so sorry, it's stage 2 breast cancer, invasive ductal carcinoma. And I burst out into tears. And, you know, my sister was on the phone to my cousin. We were getting, because she had gone through her treatment here, we were getting all the oncologist's name, and I wanted to go through the same people. And so we were getting everything done. And I was just crying, and I didn't know why I was crying, but I was crying.
Well,
And
there's a lot of emotion and stress and being
perfect.
told you were okay and now you're not. And
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And then the GP looked at me and asked me, why are you crying? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know why I'm crying. Am I going to die? Like, what happens now, kind of thing. And then she just put her hand on my arm and she was like, you're looking at a person who on that day, when I was speaking to her on that Friday, was her 7-year or her 8-year of being in remission from stage 2 breast cancer. So I was like,
Wow.
oh, okay.
And that's why your mom went to the temple because everything works. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Isn't it interesting that that's who
yeah,
your doctor was?
yeah. So everything happened really fast. That was the Friday. We got an appointment with the breast surgeon on Monday. We went in. We had a plan. We were going to do a lumpectomy. It was scheduled for 2 weeks from that Monday.
Oh, and we should probably explain to people, you had a needle biopsy when the first
Yeah,
time, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
I had a needle biopsy. And yeah, I asked the surgeon, I was like, look, I've got tickets to go back to KL because it was the school holidays. Can I still go? And then I'll come back. Um, I'll come back earlier and we'll have the surgery on the second week of school holidays. And she was fine with that. So I went home. I spent a week at home. I came back early. I had the surgery. 1 week later, went back to work. Uh,
Really? 1 week later?
yeah, yeah.
You were feeling it well enough or you needed to go back?
I was I was feeling fine actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had a lumpectomy and they removed 7 lymph nodes. Um, and I went back. So within that time of the week after surgery, I went back to work. And then we also met with the oncologist who went, these are the results of your surgery. They had a clear,
Margin?
yeah, they had a clear margin, but a tiny speck of one of the lymph nodes, like it was a 0.03 mm speck,
Oh gosh.
like literally the tiniest speck in one of the lymph nodes. And she went, you're young. I hate to do this, but I want to blast you with 4 chemotherapy sessions so we get everything out of the way. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, cool. We talked it through.
Did you have radiation at all?
Yes, I had 30 sessions of
Oh,
radiation.
that's right, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Okay.
So that came after. Um, so I had 4 sessions of chemotherapy, which I did over 3 months. So one every 3 weeks. And I chose to continue working full time. I did take about 4 or 5 days off after each chemotherapy session. And it worked out that my third chemo actually opened back up to right after my third chemo was school holidays anyway.
Nice.
So it kind of worked out in that sense. So I went back to work, which I think um, played a really huge part with my recovery. I was teaching a year 7 special needs class in 2019, which is, so year 7 is the first year of high school in Australia.
So they're like 14 roughly, right?
12,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So they're still little babies trying to maneuver around high school. And so it was a very hectic year, but these kids, this lot of 10 kids that I had they were a blessing. Like I would come back to school and it was like, so when I was away and they had a relief teacher, again, my good friend was my deputy at that point. She'd be calling me and she's like, man, your child, she's going crazy. Like the relief teacher had all the behaviors in the world. And then I'd come back and they would be absolutely amazing for me. We talked about me having cancer.
Yeah.
We talked about me losing my hair. I updated them with I told them exactly what I had. I had also I say had because they're no longer in my class this year. But I also had a little boy with autism who was very high functioning. So he went home and Googled the living daylights out of breast cancer.
Oh, jeez.
And I had a very good relationship with his mom, like I still do. And when I was diagnosed, mom called me and she was like, you need to speak to him because his primary school teacher passed from cancer.
Oh,
So he
jeez.
had that in him. And I went up to him and I said, look, I know your primary school teacher passed, but I am not going to die on you, and I need you to believe me. So he said, okay. And I know the first chemo that I went for, he was really afraid. So they had all the behaviors with him. He was arcing up. He was crying in school. And then I think when he saw me come back,
Mm-hmm.
he was okay. He was like, no, all right, she's not dying on me. And then the second chemo happened and I came back and then he was okay. He trusted the fact
Poor
that I was
kid, though. Poor little 12-year-old. Goodness.
yeah. And he Googled so much that he came to me one day and he was like, so stress is not good for you. And I remember I was dealing with something and I was like, oh my God, this is stressing me out. And I did that. And he came up to me and he goes, Miss Ash, you know, it's really not good if you stress yourself out. It makes the cancer worse. And I was like, shut up, you little kid.
Listen, smart mouth. Just because you know everything.
And
But
then
you know what?
the
I just
other
love that they
thing,
wanted to take care of you in that
yeah,
way.
and the other thing that he found was that sugar, obviously cancer cells feed on sugar.
Yeah.
So they emptied my entire drawer. Like they went through my 2 drawers, emptied everything. I had no chocolate, I had no sweets. We emptied everything. We did it together. But you know, because the oncologist had already told me, I had already stopped sugar, but he had researched this and he came to me with this information and he's like, we need to clear your drawers out. And not that I had overly that much in my drawer, but I did have a fair amount. I mean, it's how teachers get through the day. So we emptied everything, and my last chemotherapy was in term 3. Yeah, in term 3. So I went back to work the first week, and then it was on the Thursday of the first week. So then I had 5 days off and came back the next week. And I came back to like this celebration of chemotherapy ending. The kids had made sugar-free brownies, sugar-free. They made a bacon, a ham and vegetable, like a slice.
Like a quiche or what?
Yeah, like a quiche. Yeah, a quiche.
Okay.
Yeah, a ham and vegetable quiche.
So wait, what do you call it? You call it like a slice?
Yeah, but
Oh,
it's
that's
not
cool.
called a slice. I think it's called a quiche. Yeah, it's a quiche.
Okay.
Yeah, we use the same word here.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had sweet potato brownies, which when they told me, I was like, where on earth did you guys find this from? But they worked along with my 2 education assistants who were relief EAs at that point. These poor guys in 2019 had a class of like so many relief staff because in the third term, when I went in for my fourth chemotherapy, one of my 2 regular EAs that my assistants that work in the class, one of them went on long service leave, and the other one got injured in a horse riding thing and like cracked her kneecap or something like that, and she was off. So they were dealing with so many relief staff, and I am so grateful that I had these 2 relief staff that are quite constant in school. So they took over the class and they were there and they helped the relief teacher, and it was amazing. So they worked with these 2 relief staff. They made me sweet potato brownies, the ham and vegetable quiche, and sugarless cookies, like sugar-free cookies. So we had that, and I arrived when I got to school the first day after chemo. They were like, Miss, we're going to do math for 1 session, and then in session 2, it's a party. And I was like, okay, yeah. So they didn't let me go into the kitchen. They set up this thing, and they made little presents. So they made me a jar with notes. All of them wrote notes of the things that they're grateful for because of me, or like the things that they're thankful for. And so they wrote it down on a piece of paper, and it was scrunched up, and they put it all into like a jar. So it was a jar of notes of all the nice things they think about me and why they're grateful for me and things like that.
Oh my gosh.
So it was, yeah, so it's a jar that I can just pull out a note when I'm having a bad day, and they remind me why I'm good and why I'm great. So they had that, and they bought me a candle because they know that I'm very sensitive towards smell.
Yeah.
Like I hate bad smelling, and it's teenagers. Their body odor is so bad. Body odor after CZ especially. Oh my god. So yeah, they made me all these things, and they bought presents, and we had this like class party to celebrate the end of chemotherapy.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, and I was so surprised because the biggest thing, especially with children with autism, is the empathy.
Right.
They lack empathy, and to see that these kids, they understood and they knew that it was something that I was struggling with, and they could relate to that, and they did things. So it was very, for me, it was a real moment where I thought, maybe, I know it sounds stupid, but like obviously everything happens for a reason, and one of the reasons I believe why everything happened was because I'm the type of person who doesn't stop. I'm always like go 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 go. So yeah, so I think it happened because it needed me to take a step back and look after myself.
Yeah.
But then now when I look back, I also go, maybe it was also to teach them empathy.
It's funny that because I was thinking about this the other day, and I was reading something, and someone said, I don't know that everything happens for a reason, but I know that you can find purpose in everything.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting because I think there is meaning and purpose, and there are good lessons to be learned from whatever happens if you're willing to take those in. And you can't, day one, there's no way.
No.
I always tell people, give me 24 to 48 hours to be bitter and resentful and process all the stuff in my head.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm just in crisis mode,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because I remember when I got diagnosed, all I did was that Friday, I came home and I sat on my bathroom floor and cried for about 4 hours.
Okay, that was your process.
And then the next day, and then the next day I put on a really nice dress and put some makeup on and went to my best friend's wedding.
That's crazy. Oh, tell about your mom. Tell about your mom and the cooking.
Oh my God, she was cooking like for 3 months. So mom came to Australia and lived with me in Perth for 3 months. My family members, my sister, my brother-in-law, my dad, my cousins, my aunties, they were all flying in and out of KL. So what they decided, without my knowledge, my sister, when I got diagnosed, the day I got diagnosed, set up a group chat with all my cousins without me. And before I knew it, they already had a whole roster of who was flying in when. And mom was going to be the main person who was going to be here. And everyone else would fly in and out. So at any given time, it wouldn't just be mom and I, it would be mom, myself, and someone else. And the someone else was going to do the driving and all the other things.
And be there to support your mom.
Yeah, because mom needed that support too. And my mom just cooked every day. Every single day, there was new food on the table. I never had leftovers. Everyone else ate leftovers. I had fresh food every day. And the juices, oh my God.
I love the juicing. Yeah, that was awesome.
So she made me fresh juice every morning and every evening. I had like a mixed green juice kind of thing with 7 different things in it that tasted disgusting. But I just closed my eyes and I was like, with a straw, and that would go down. But the evening juice was really nice. It was a mixed berry juice with almond milk and dates for antioxidants, which was great. That was really, really nice. Yeah. But the morning juice, oh my God, I would not wish it upon anyone. But look, it gave me the nutrients that I needed. And
In a way you could absorb them. That
yeah,
was hard for me. Yeah.
exactly. It gave me the strength that I needed. And she would be up like, because I would leave home at about 7 for work, 6:45, 7. She'd be up by 6 o'clock, making all my juices, packing food, packing lunch. And the best part was throughout her 3 months here, it wasn't only me that got lunch, it was people at work as well who got.
Of course they did.
So my friend Joe had lunch. The human resource manager Karen, she'd be getting lunch from time to time.
That's so
And
awesome.
Bob would make stuff and be like, "Oh, here, take this for Karen and Joe." So it was great. She had the best time, I think.
No, but and also, I don't know about you, but when I have somebody in crisis, I wanna be doing something.
Yeah, yeah. I think that was that worked really well for mom to have something to do all the time. She also went in for so where I was receiving treatment, they had a Solaris Center, and they provided support for cancer patients and carers. So
Awesome.
there was things like Reiki, massage, meditation sessions, counseling sessions. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to access any of this because I'd have chemotherapy and then be really sick for the 4 or 5 days after, and then I was at work. And all the services were during work hours.
Business hours, yeah.
Yeah. But that said, mom accessed a fair bit. I'm pretty sure she went for some Reiki sessions. She did 2 or 3 counseling sessions. I think that was really good for her as well to sort of have, because I think like everyone was affected, but her being here and trying to help me through it, she needed to keep strong as well.
Right, so she needed somewhere else that she could deal with all of what was
Yeah.
coming up for her. We always talk about it as that therapy is tools for your toolbox.
Yes.
'Cause
Exactly.
who's had a daughter with cancer before?
Yeah.
It's like you can't people are like, "Well, you just have to tough it up and get through it." Okay,
Yeah.
sure, but if there are tools and skills.
Yeah. Then it would be so much easier to toughen up and get through.
Right.
So yeah, so that was that was I think that was a good thing for mom to have going through it. And I think it's quite similar. Actually, I don't know in the States, but I think in Malaysia it's quite similar as well. Like the Cancer Council you have access to counseling and therapy for your carers.
Oh, it depends. Ugh, anyway,
Primary carers mostly. But
it depends
I know it's
here.
very, very different in the States because so when I got diagnosed, the what I went by was like I started scrambling through Instagram to find other people, and there were so many people that I connected with, not just in Australia, but a girl in the States. Mindy's amazing. She is
That was my sister who died of cancer. That was her name, Mindy.
really.
Mhm.
Mindy lives, actually, I don't know where she lives, but she has a farm. So somewhere where there's a farm.
That's
But
could be anywhere. Yes.
but she also works with special needs kids. She's
Oh,
an
that's so cool.
occupational therapist, and she had the exact same diagnosis as me, and we're almost the same age as well. I think we're like a year apart. So she's been one of my like very, very strong support system.
Mhm.
Another girl, Luann in Sydney, I connected with her because she did cold capping and I tried cold capping the first time.
And for people who don't know, that's where you put this, like, icy cold cap on your head during chemo to try and keep from losing your hair. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yes, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It didn't work for me. That said, now when I look back, I don't know if I gave it enough time because they say that your hair drops like crazy after the first session and then it's kind of slows down, but mine was just dropping like madness, and I thought, that's it, I can't bear to like look at this anymore. So I just did the whole shave,
Me
and
too.
yeah.
You said it was so cold though. That's what cracked
Oh
me
my
up. You were
God,
like,
it was so cold, so cold. My brain has never felt that painful ever.
it's like the worst ice cream headache you could possibly have.
So bad. It's like, no, ice cream headache has nothing on this. um, so like, yeah, so I connected with Mindy, and then I realized from Mindy that things like, so I still have the Zoladex needle, which is a needle to preserve your ovaries, which they give patients during chemotherapy. I don't know if it's all chemotherapies or whether it's just breast cancer, but I think it's all, because you kind of want to protect your ovaries, especially for the
So
younger.
what is it? It's a shot or something?
Yes, it's the world's biggest needle. It's created for dinosaurs. I kid you not. I don't understand how we've gone through, like, we live in 2021. We're creating a vaccine for COVID in like the shortest amount of time, but no one has come up with a way to make this needle smaller.
So tell me what they do, because I had already had a prophylactic hysterectomy after my first cancer, so
Okay.
I didn't have to do that.
So basically, they inject you in your tummy. It's an implant, and it's a slow release implant that goes over 28 days. So they inject you, and you don't get your periods, and it protects your ovaries.
Okay.
It stops it from working altogether.
Okay.
So the thing with mine was that my breast cancer was triggered by hormones. So I had to stop those hormones anyway. So right now I'm in medical menopause. I go through I've got the hot flashes and everything. So right now my upkeep for the next 5 years is the Zoladex needle every month, and every day I take medication to stop the production of estrogen from anywhere else in my body. So it's a hormone blocker. But that needle is like freaking gigantic. Okay, I kid you not. Like, if anyone's listening and you want to know what it looks like, Google Zoladex with a Z, and you will see the world's largest needle. It's so big that's it. Apparently, depending on the state, even in Australia, depending on the state you're in or the hospital you're in, they offer you lignocaine, which numbs the area that they're going to inject you. So they give you a lignocaine needle first, and then they give you the Zoladex needle, because that's how painful it is. But it depends on the state that you go, or where your hospital is, because some of the hospitals don't do that.
So Western Australia, what do?
I don't know how women without the lignocaine do it, because I do the lignocaine and I can still feel the pain and the pressure.
And this is every 28 days.
Yes. Once.
Wow.
So, but this Zoladex needle for us here in Australia, it's $36 a year. But
A year?
$36 a month.
Well, even so, that's still great.
Yes, it's very great, because I know that in the States, people are paying in the hundreds for it, because it's not covered by insurance or the government, or I don't know what's the equivalent to Medicare in the States, but it's not covered. So I don't know how people access.
They don't. Ash, that's what happens. They don't.
And
then they lose the opportunity to,
yes,
have kids.
So that's quite. It's a very expensive health condition to have.
I was talking with someone about it today.
Yeah, depending on where you are, especially I think in Australia we're very lucky, because Medicare covers a lot. If you're in public, I don't think there's much cost to it.
And by public, she means you go with the public health system. You can buy private insurance as well, correct?
Yes.
You can choose which way to go.
Exactly. So with my treatments, because I've got private health cover that I pay for myself, I opted to go with the private healthcare. But you can go with the public system, and it's the cost would be completely minimum. So I've been
And anybody has access to that, correct?
yes. So with the public healthcare system, everyone in Australia, so long as you're a citizen or a permanent resident, you have access to Medicare, which gives you, like, I think our healthcare system is pretty good.
That's what I hear from everybody. I mean, I've even heard of people who've had accidents when they've been traveling there and have been very, very impressed with the
Yes.
healthcare.
Yeah, yeah. So even I think if you're in a car accident in Australia, even if you are a tourist, you get sent to the public hospital and everything is paid for.
Wow.
Mm.
So you're saying if you're going to get in a car accident, Australia is the place to do it.
Yes.
So, okay. So, and then I remember you had radiation after that,
Yes. So I
the
had
30 treatments.
6 weeks of daily radiation.
Yeah.
I was expecting the worst because throughout radiation, so after my final chemotherapy, my cousins were around for a week and then they left and went back to KL. And mom had gone back to KL as well because for 3 months, like the Australian tourist visa is for 3 months.
Mm.
So she went back and I was just like, you know what? I think radiotherapy might be fine. I don't think I need you guys here, but if I do, I'll tell you and you can come back. I was very surprised. I went through the fatigue was there.
Yeah.
But
not till like week 4 or 5, right? That's when it really started to hit me.
Not till week 4 or 5. And I was still working every day. I went into work full time every single day throughout the 6 weeks. The thing that I did get help with was food. So I found a lady who was catering Malaysian food. I got her to send me food every
Awesome.
2 weeks. Yeah, so I didn't have to think about coming back from work and cooking for myself and all that. The radiation therapy itself, I was worried about how my skin would take it, but because I'm brown skin, I've got darker skin, higher melanin, I didn't burn or I didn't even, like, when I look on the side now, there is a tiny shade difference, like a very, very minimum shade difference, but I didn't have any redness or swelling or blisters, which I know a lot of women or a lot of people that go through radiation have that because they've got very fair skin.
And I didn't. I'm pretty fair skinned. I have olive undertones, but I didn't. I got the itchy.
Yeah.
I got because the skin was like almost like a light sunburn as far as the itch, I guess, but that was it.
Yeah. I think it just depends, and that's what the radiation oncologist told me as well. It really depends on how your skin takes to it.
Mm. I moisturized a lot, though. I was very careful to do lots and lots of moisturizing.
Yeah, yeah. So I used a sort of a cream, like a transparent cream thing called Strata XRT, something like that, and that helped. I would assume it really did what it was meant to do. I didn't burn. Like,
no, that's awesome.
yeah.
Well, I had mine I had just had open heart surgery, so I had a massive scar.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where they were doing it. Excuse me. And I was lucky because my scar healed. Everything turned out great.
Yeah. So
I was going to, go ahead. Excuse me.
No, that's all right. Yeah. Well, that was on, radiation therapy, chemotherapy, surgery, everything.
And you're 2 years out?
I'm 2 years out now, almost 2 years. I'm 18 months post chemotherapy. I've adopted a very different lifestyle, a different outlook on life. I never used to like exercising. It was like, oh, I hated sweating. Just hated it. But, now they do say like 20 minutes of exercise a day keeps it away. So I do 45 minutes of Pilates almost every day, of reformer Pilates. I've really kind of found a massive liking towards that. I still kind of stay away from sugar mostly. Cut back on alcohol. Not that I was an alcoholic or anything, but I used to have an occasional wine or two every other week. Now I kind of do it just every time I go out, which is not very often because, everyone's COVID.
Yeah.
But we're very lucky here in WA. Like, it has been amazing. We haven't really even had to go into lockdown at all last year. I think we were like on 1 week of, it wasn't even lockdown. It was just a controlled movement. We never,
That's awesome.
yeah, we never needed to do online schooling or anything. So it's been pretty good. I mean, I know a lot of companies have still done the whole work from home, but yeah.
Especially when you're immunocompromised, you think about that. And I'm not in active treatment or anything, but they're like, yeah, but your immune system's never quite the same after chemo. So you have to just be mindful.
Yeah,
So
it's actually really true. Like, I find that every 10 weeks on the dot, I'm always getting like a cold or like
Seriously?
a cold and flu kind of thing. Always 10 weeks on the dot. I'm always going through that. Like, I go through like a 3-day kind of thing where I'm like feeling really crappy and my nose is stuffed and my throat is itchy.
I do that, but I haven't tracked the time. Now I got to start tracking the time to see if I'm on the schedule.
The only reason why I know it's every 10 weeks is because my mind works according to school terms. And the school terms are for 10 weeks. So I know that like every 10 weeks, there's like a 3-4 day gap where I feel crappy and my nose is stuffed and my throat is itchy and I feel like I'm having a fever, but I'm not. And you just generally feel down. And then after the 4 days, I'm like back to normal.
Okay, now I got to track that because now, seriously, now I'm intrigued. Okay. I know you have Pilates coming up soon, so.
No, not
right.
an hour.
Okay, good. So, first of all, things you wish you covered some of these, but things you wish you'd known ahead of time or that you'd do differently.
Your hair, prepare to lose it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, it's insane. Source out good wigs. Eyebrows, get them microbladed if that's something that you can do. Try to keep active. I think keeping active through treatment is very important.
For your mental health as well. For me, it helped me feel normal,
Yes. Try to move. I mean, sometimes some of the days you feel so awful that, like, even if you're walking to your mailbox and back, that's a movement for your body, because the more you move, the less I felt like the more I moved, the less painful it was.
Mm-hmm.
So
and just the fresh air, just being outside in fresh air.
Yeah. So I kept trying to move. Like, I tried to make sure I wasn't in the room all the time sleeping. But there were days where I was just like, nah, I'm not doing it. I'm going to stay in bed. Screw everybody. Close the door, shut the curtains. I'm staying in here.
Yeah. I think giving yourself permission to do that too, if it's at all possible.
Be kind to yourself, because it's a shite show to go through. Give yourself that time to recover as well after. Like, always remember, I think if I look back now, what I would tell myself is that because as soon as I finished chemotherapy, as soon as I finished active treatment, I was like, right, this is it. I'm back to normal. And then I do like 10 things in a day and I get home and I'm like, holy moly, I am so tired.
Yeah.
And your body just breaks down on you. But yes, be kind to yourself. In terms of prepping, you can never really prep yourself for cancer or chemotherapy, I think. Like, I mean,
it's so different for everybody, right?
It's so different for everybody. You can do the things like if you know you're going to lose your hair, go and visit a place to find good wigs, shave your hair if it's dropping that much, like the trauma of seeing your hair drop is not worth it.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Once
Just shave it
if
off.
I had cut it short, kind of like it is now, because mine's still growing out after chemo because I kept it short for the first year after chemo.
Yeah.
And now I'm just now growing it out and it's kind of wild. But the minute I saw it starting to fall in a clump, like
Yeah.
a good sized clump in the shower, I'm like,
It's going.
okay, we're shaving it. And then did you do the lint rollers?
No.
I think that was my husband's idea. He's like, we could just get a lint roller. So I would run it over my head and it would take care of all the little ones that were about to fall out.
Yeah.
It was great.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Lint rollers, people, not just for pet hair.
Yeah. I found that after chemotherapy, to get rid of like the aftertaste, the metal taste, red apples were really good.
That you were the one who told me. Okay, because I was interviewing a friend, Tiffany, last week before, and she said I'm starting to, because she's just started chemo. She's
Yeah.
3 treatments in, I think. I couldn't remember what it was. I said, no, there's this woman in Australia. She told me she's lovely. I can't remember what she said. Okay, red apples. Like a particular kind?
No, actually, I don't know. I just bought red apples. I don't know if I bought a specific kind of red apple, but
Okay, I'll tell Tiff.
and I think what people need to remember is that when you go through chemo, if there's a window where you feel like eating, just eat.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. Just put it in your mouth and eat, even if it's chips, even if it's the unhealthiest thing, just eat it. I went through, I think it was my second chemotherapy. I'm trying to remember, between second and third, maybe. I remember my sister and my brother-in-law were here. My brother-in-law is American. He lives in LA. They live in KL now. And my sister and him were here for a month. And yeah, I'm pretty sure because I remember them being there with me during the chemo session. So there was a point where for 3 days, almost a week actually, not 3 days, all I wanted to eat was mac and cheese. And I hated
like the gross box mac and cheese?
No, fresh mac and cheese.
Okay.
And I was never a fan of cheese before. But I woke up, and I think it was like 2 days after my chemo, I woke up and I said, I want to eat mac and cheese. And my brother-in-law, bless him, is like, if he's going to make something, he's going to Google the recipe and he's going to buy the exact thing that the recipe says. And so, I've made mac and cheese with my kids in school, and we kind of just throw in everything and bam, into the oven. My brother-in-law took like almost an hour to make my mac and cheese. And he had like all the different types of cheese in there. And he followed this recipe to the T. And it was amazing. And that's all I ate for 1 week. I think he made it maybe 3 times in that 1 week.
So you did eat leftovers?
No, I didn't, because he made it 3 times. Yeah, so I would have had leftovers, much to my mother's disapproval. But if you find a bracket or a time frame where you go, I think I just want to eat, whether it's I want to have a cupcake, go and eat it.
My little nephew Quinn, it was Tay, his mom, who's my sister every way but biologically, let's put it that way. Yeah. But Quinn, for a while, it was just hot dogs, and it was so gross. She's like, ugh, but it was calories, and you've got to get calories. The nutritionist, I'm like, should I be avoiding sugar in this? She's like, I wouldn't pig out on sugar, but she said at this point, any calorie you can get in your body and keep down.
Yeah. Do it.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. It's if you suddenly feel like eating, just eat. Because you need that, you need the calories, you need the energy.
Mm-hmm.
You really do. Because, I don't know. I know a lot of people who put on weight during chemotherapy, but I lost 17 kilos.
Holy crap.
In 3 months.
38, 39 pounds.
Yeah.
Right? It's 2.2. Yeah. goodness.
So I lost so much. Like, the good thing was thankfully I like to say I was fat to begin with. So
No, you weren't because you've been working out for that wedding.
yes, I was. But I felt like, okay, losing the weight was not too bad. Like, if anything good came out of cancer, I lost the weight. But losing the weight so drastically,
You lose so much muscle too.
you lose muscle, you lose your energy, which that was quite hard.
Yeah. Especially
So
being a teacher, I bet. 'Cause I
yeah,
have a desk job.
so if you can eat and eat whatever you want to eat, don't stop yourself from it. I mean, don't overdo the sugar as well, but yeah.
Yeah, if something they kept saying, "If something sounds good, eat it. Eat it
Yeah,
while it sounds good, because it probably won't 2 hours from now."
yeah,
Okay.
precisely.
Okay, so what else? You were talking about how you look at life differently. What's your biggest takeaway been from this experience?
Nothing. I feel like now when I look at things, there's no problem that's big enough to stress over and to be a problem.
That's a good
Um,
point.
yeah, so small things don't stress me out as much anymore. Um, that's it. I haven't been home to Malaysia to see, like, I haven't seen my family for 12 months because of COVID. And so 2 days ago, I was like on the phone crying to mom. I was like, I'm so homesick. Ah. And mom's like, don't give me your pathetic face. And I was like, um, you know, you still feel it, but when you look at the bigger picture, for me, it's like I spent, 6 months fighting to stay alive, doing everything I possibly could to make sure that I'm alive, to make sure that it doesn't get worse. So there's no way, there's nothing that I think is big enough for me to stress over now because I'm having to compare that with going into survival mode and
Mhm.
fighting. Like you literally just gotta give all your might and fight and know that you'll come out the other side. Like, don't
Yeah,
not to say don't worry about it. I will never tell someone not to worry about cancer. But
but the attitude's critical. I think you're right.
yeah, yeah. If you go in um, thinking that you're gonna die, you need to get into that fight for your life because
Mhm.
it's you. There's no one else who can fight for you.
Yeah,
It's the only thing, everyone else around you can support you, but you've got to do the fighting.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, okay, I lost, my father and my sister and a very dear friend to cancer,
Yeah.
and they fought. And it doesn't always go the way we want it to, but if you
No.
don't fight and just give up, I think that is the biggest detriment you can give to yourself because the biggest thing, the most detrimental thing you can do to yourself because it takes that fight to get through and do the next right thing to try and get healthy. And guess what? The way treatment's advancing now,
Yeah. There
you
are
have so
ways.
much of a better chance. There's always something else to try.
Yeah.
Almost always.
Yes. Correct. Correct. So, I mean, look, I'm not saying that every cancer that someone has is going to end up in a positive result, because my auntie Raji, who you speak to on the YL Drop Talk, she lost her husband um, October last year
Yeah.
uh, to
I
cancer,
didn't know
and
she lost him to cancer. Crime, right?
that yeah, yeah. So that was October. That was just 2 weeks after I finished active treatment. I got the call and I hopped on a plane and went home. Um, and it's a massive, a huge loss to the family and for me especially because I mean for everyone, but I think for me I was just really upset and really angry that had ended for him. But at the same time, I know he gave it everything. Like he
Yeah.
gave everything to make sure. And I mean, look, he met his first grandkid. Um, yeah, so we had, and he saw everyone he needed to see before, and yeah, so
Yeah.
it's
But if you don't fight, I think
yeah,
I think you have to fight to get enough time to do the things you need to do.
yeah, and then you come to that's another side of it. And if you're on the side where like you've fought and you've come out, then don't be afraid to do things that you want to do.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at now. Like if I want to do something, I'm going to go for it. I'm not going to
Right.
sit down and be like, oh, but do I need to? I mean, I'm still going to weigh pros and cons. I'm not going to
But
go
not let
build
just not let unreasonable fear hold you back from trying
it.
things.
Yes, because at the end, if you don't try, you're never going to know what the outcome is. And that part has doubled up so much post cancer because there's no fear. I mean, yeah, within reasonable amount. If I want to try it, I'm going to go for it.
Right.
Yeah.
My radiation oncology nurse said it this way, and she did the one that's Lori on one of these podcasts. She said, "You're not guaranteed that tomorrow's going to look like today, because everybody says there's no guarantee you'll have it tomorrow." And yeah, that's true, but what she said struck me more because that's kind of been my experience. You're not guaranteed that tomorrow's going to look like today.
Yeah.
So take advantage of what you can do today. You'll have to adjust and whatever if it changes, but realize that the way you're living and the health you have and all those kinds of things, that might be different tomorrow. So what
Yeah.
would you want to do today? I thought that was really wise.
Correct. Exactly. Because it's not going to look the same.
Yeah. Okay. So last two questions. Bucket list items, first of all.
I can't even remember what my answer was the last time.
It didn't matter. It can be a different answer. What do you think today?
What do I think today? I'm waiting for COVID to be over because, man, I need to travel.
Oh, dude, for real. For real.
I think the first thing I'm going to do post-COVID is to get on a plane and fly home and see my family. Yeah, other than that, like career-wise, I'm kind of hoping to step up a little bit more. That's on my bucket list to get into admin and work more on that. I have a long 5-year plan to open something in Malaysia. Not 5 years. It's really going to be more than 5 years with COVID.
Yes, this is what you talked about last time. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I do want to open a kind of a workplace learning thing in Malaysia where I have a cafe downstairs and train high school age students to learn skills like waitressing, barista skills.
Particularly students with special needs, correct?
Yes, correct. So special needs students so that when they leave school, they have a
marketable skill. Yeah.
A skill, because quite often, especially in Malaysia, I don't think there's a lot of that available. There are a lot of centers for school and to develop those skills, but not much to develop workplace learning skills. And
you said Australia does a good job of that.
Australia does a very, very good job with providing special needs students with the skills to live life after post school. And
awesome.
That's something that I'm very, very passionate about because I see my students and like everything I do in class from the time they're in year 7 all the way up is to prepare them for life after school, because they're not going to they get so much support. And I think that's where it kind of shocks them, because they're in school and they get so much support in school. And when they leave school, it's like, well, I don't know, people were helping me with this before. So
right.
The development of life skills and the development of work employment skills is something that I'm quite passionate about. So something that I want to bring back to Malaysia at some point and start a place where I can help give kids these skills, special needs kids, with things like barista skills and waitressing skills, working behind the till, maybe baking, things like that.
Yeah.
so they could possibly then use that as an avenue for work.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, so
Did you
that
watch, just total aside, our kids were watching this series, I think it was on Netflix, called Love on the Spectrum.
yes.
It was done in Australia. It was interesting and heartwarming, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's so entertaining though, because from a special needs teacher perspective, I'm watching this and I'm like putting these characters to students that I have.
Oh, it's like, I know that kid. Oh, yeah.
my God. Yeah, I totally have someone like that at work.
But that one was someplace it was in the Gold Coast or someplace, right?
Yes,
It's
yes.
not in Western Australia.
Actually,
Okay.
I remember last year, I think at the end of somewhere last year, there was an email that came out from DDW, which is the Disability WA, Western Australia, that were asking for people for the next season.
The next season. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The next season to film in WA. And I was like, oh my goodness. Yes, they're filming in WA. One of my students might be on this.
Okay, so here's the deal. When they film that and we get all the characters and we know who they are, I'm gonna message you and say, like, okay, do you know any of these kids? Because we're thinking so and so and so and so.
Yeah.
It's very heartwarming, and it's very I think it helped. I mean, and our kids have had friends throughout the years who are special needs in different ways and whatever else. And so I think it's neat to help people develop more empathy and understanding for people who might be a little different than they are, and maybe see the world from a slightly different perspective and realize there's value in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, last question. Your favorite place to be? It can be more than one.
My mom's apartment, my parents' apartment.
Well, I hear your mom cooks every day. So if I ever get to KL.
You ever get to KL, my mom and Auntie Raji live 3 floors apart from each other.
Seriously?
Yes. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Kiara Park is my favorite place in the world because I have on the 17th floor my parents' apartment, on the 15th floor my auntie's apartment, and on the other side my sister's apartment. So
that's awesome, though.
That's my favorite.
That's been the hardest part. That's the hardest part, is not seeing people right now. So,
but that will always be my favorite place in the world. Yeah.
Well, Ash, you're delightful. Like, seriously. And she's so gracious to do this again. I just
Thank you. It's okay.
No, I really appreciate it. And if you ever get here.
Yes.
Okay. So if it's not COVID-y, come to Florida, but we're moving back to Oregon this summer. You have a place anytime. I'd love to have you come visit.
Thank you. At some point, yes.
I love Ash's passion for helping kids with special needs and her zest for life. This episode is the end of our first season of Life, Cancer, Etc. We'll be back at the end of January with more episodes on a variety of topics. In the meantime, please do something nice for somebody else. Look around you, count your blessings, and make it a really great week. Thanks for listening.